Queen Victoria's great-grandchildren. Part 3. The grandchildren of Arthur, Leopold, and Beatrice. Back in 2019, I published videos on Queen Victoria's 9 children and 42 grandchildren. And ever since, I get constant comments requesting I cover the Queen's great-grandchildren. Well, I've finally done it. Over this 3-part series, I've introduced all 85 of Her Majesty's great-grandchildren and covered the highlights, tragedies, and scandals of their lives. And before anyone jumps in the comments requesting I cover Victoria's great-great-grandchildren next, I have included in this series the subsequent generations who did and still do occupy or claim thrones. The further we get from royalty, the less recorded information there is, so a video on all 142 great-great-grandchildren really isn't practical. But today, let's meet the rest of Queen Victoria's fascinating great-grandchildren. 7th child Arthur, Duke of Connaught and Strathearn, married Princess Louise Margrethe of Prussia and had 3 children, all of whom had children of their own. Margrethe married Gustav Adolf, Crown Prince of Sweden. She was devoted to her 5 children, but died suddenly of sepsis while pregnant with her 6th. Gustav Adolf was a Boy Scout. He attended the Swedish Royal Military Academy and attained the rank of lieutenant colonel. He competed in show jumping in the 1936 Berlin Olympics. He married fellow great-grandchild Princess Sibylla of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha, and they had 4 daughters and a son. While returning from a diplomatic trip to the Netherlands, the prince was killed in a plane crash, along with 15 other passengers and 6 crew. The prince was 40 years old. His son, Carl Gustav, became second in line to the throne at 9 months old, and crown prince at 4. He is currently Carl XVI Gustav, King of Sweden. His daughter, Crown Princess Victoria, is next in line. Siegfried was an industrial designer and developed a number of beautiful everyday objects. He spent time in Hollywood and worked as an assistant director. He married Erika Patzig, and because she was a commoner, he gave up his royal titles and place in the succession. They divorced and he married Sonia Robert and had 1 son. They divorced and he married Swedish actress Mariana Chang. He argued with his royal relatives for years about his title and finally declared himself a prince. He died in 2002, age 94. Ingrid was educated in history, art, political science, and several languages. After her mother died, she spent several months a year in the UK with her grandfather. She resented her father's remarriage and spent her time traveling to keep away from home. She was cultured and loved art, horse riding, skiing, and tennis. The stylish princess toured America to much acclaim. She was matched with several young princes, including fellow great-grandchild Edward, Prince of Wales, but no engagements resulted. She finally accepted the proposal of her 3rd cousin, Fredrick, Crown Prince of Denmark and Iceland. The wedding was one of the greatest media events of the 1930s. They had 3 daughters. As Crown Princess, she was a patron of the Girl Guides and the Women's War Effort Society. During World War II, she was openly defiant of German occupation and hung a British flag in her window, despite her family's warnings that it was dangerous. She was a public symbol of patriotic morale. Ingrid became Queen Consort of Denmark in 1947 and did away with old-fashioned court protocol. King Fredrick IX died in 1972, and their eldest daughter became Queen Margrethe II, as she remains today, followed by her son, Crown Prince Frederick. The Queen Mother remained popular until her death in 2000 at the age of 90. Her 3 daughters and 10 grandchildren were by her side. She was widely mourned. Her youngest daughter, Anne-Marie, married King Constantine II of Greece. His throne was abolished in 1973. Their son, Pavlos, Crown Prince of Greece, is the second claimant to the defunct Greek throne. Bertil was created Duke of Halland. He served in the Navy during World War II. After his brother died, he was a mentor and surrogate father to his nephew, and deputy when he acceded the throne as King Carl XVI Gustaf. Bertil fell in love with a Welsh commoner, Lillian Craig, but he could not marry her without giving up his place as a prince and advisor to his nephew. So the couple lived together privately for 30 years and never had children. When King Carl XVI Gustaf himself chose to marry a commoner, he changed the law and approved the marriage of his uncle. He and Lillian married in their 60s. Bertil died in 1997, age 84. Carl Johan renounced his title to marry journalist Kirsten Wijkmark. They adopted 2 children, lived in New York City, and were friends with Greta Garbo. Carl died in 2012, age 95. Arthur married his first cousin, Princess Alexandra. Their only child, Alistair, attended the Royal Military Academy at Sandhurst. At 27, he inherited his grandfather's title of Duke of Connaught and Strathearn. At 28, while stationed in Ottawa, Canada, he got drunk and fell out of a window. His body was discovered the next morning. He had died of hypothermia in the night. Patricia married commoner Sir Alexander Ramsay, and they had one child, Alexander. At 16, he was a page of honor at the coronation of King George VI. He attended Eton and joined the Grenadier Guards. He served in North Africa during World War II and lost his right leg in a tank battle. He married Flora Fraser, who succeeded her father as chief of the Scottish clan Fraser. They had 3 daughters. Alexander died in 2000, age 80. Queen Victoria's 8th child, Leopold, married Princess Helen of Waldeck and Pyrmont, and they had 2 children before he died of hemophilia at the age of 30. Alice married Alexander Cambridge, Earl of Athlone, and had 3 children. May was a bridesmaid to both Mary Princess Royal and Lady Elizabeth Bowes-Lyon, the future queen consort. She wed Sir Henry Abel Smith, member of a wealthy banking family. One of her bridesmaids was a 5-year-old future Queen Elizabeth II. The couple had a long, happy marriage and 3 children. From 1958 to 66, Henry was governor of Queensland, Australia. May died in 1994, age 88. Rupert inherited hemophilia. He attended Trinity College, Cambridge. He died of a brain hemorrhage following a car crash at the age of 20. Maurice died at 5 months old, possibly of hemophilia. Charles Edward inherited his uncle Alfred's throne as Duke of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha. He was sent to Germany, where his cousin, Kaiser Wilhelm, took him under his wing. He married Princess Victoria Adelaide of Schleswig-Holstein, and they had 5 children. Charles Edward was an abusive father and ran his family like a military unit. Johann Leopold was heir apparent until his father was forced to abdicate the ducal throne in the 1918 German Revolution. The ousted duke wanted to marry his son to Princess Juliana, heir to the Dutch throne. He hoped to control his new daughter-in-law and become effective ruler of the Netherlands. But Juliana was not interested in Johann. Bitter Charles Edward called his son useless for failing to win the princess's affection. Johann fell in love with Baroness Feodora von der Horst and ceded his right to his father's defunct throne to marry her. They had 3 children, but divorced. He died in 1972, age 65. Sibylla was a bridesmaid to her cousin, Lady May. At the wedding, another bridesmaid, Princess Ingrid of Sweden, introduced her to her brother, Prince Gustav Adolf, second in line to the Swedish throne. The couple wed in Coburg, Germany in 1932. Public celebrations had a strong Nazi presence, which made a bad impression in Sweden. The couple had a happy marriage and shared a love of sport and outdoor activities. They had 5 children. Her father became a staunch Nazi and worked on Hitler's personal staff. This caused the people of neutral Sweden to distrust her, but the princess proved her loyalty to her adoptive country and new family by working diligently on charitable causes in Sweden, favoring children and environmental issues. In 1947, her husband died in a plane crash. Sibylla spent her widowhood performing royal duties in support of her father-in-law. She died of cancer at 64 in 1962. A year later, her son inherited the throne and became King Carl XVI Gustaf of Sweden. Hubertus was homosexual and lived in fear of his father finding out. When his brother Johann ceded his succession rights, he became the heir to his father's title. Charles Edward was devoted to Hitler, whom he believed would restore his throne. Hubertus despised the Nazis, but for fear of his father, he joined the party and served as a pilot in the Luftwaffe. His plane was shot down by Soviets, and he died at the age of 34. Caroline Mathilde was sexually abused by her father. She married Fredrick, Count of Castile-Rubenhausen, and had 3 children. He was killed in World War II. She had 3 more children with her second husband, Captain Max Schneering. They divorced, and Caroline married a 3rd time to Karl André. She died in 1983, age 71. Friedrich Josiah served in the German army and was part of the invasions of Poland and France. He married his first cousin, Countess Victoria Louise of Solms-Baruth, and they had 1 child but divorced. After the war, Friedrich moved to San Francisco in the United States. There he wed Denise de Maralt and had 3 more children. He inherited his father's claim to the defunct title Duke of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha. He divorced and married a 3rd time to Katharina Brim. Friedrich died in 1998, age 79. Victoria and Albert's youngest child, Beatrice, married Prince Henry of Battenberg. They had 4 children, 2 of whom had children. Alexander Mountbatten married Lady Irene Denison and had 1 child, Lady Iris Kemp, who was born in 1920 and was the youngest of Queen Victoria's great-grandchildren. She was one of 6 train bearers to Queen Elizabeth Bowes Lion at her coronation in 1937. She was a well-known and much photographed debutante. During World War II, she worked as a nurse's aide. She married Captain Hamilton O'Malley, but they divorced 5 years later. After the war, she moved to the United States, where she taught dance and worked as an actress and model. She hosted children's program Versatile Varieties and appeared in commercials for Pond's Cream and Warren's Mint Cocktail Gum. Next, she wed jazz musician Michael Bryan, but they divorced months later while Iris was pregnant with their child, Robin. Her 3rd marriage to Canadian actor William Kemp lasted until his death. Iris died of a brain tumor in 1982, age 62. Victoria Eugenie fell in love with King Alfonso XIII of Spain. His mother warned him that she might carry the gene for hemophilia, but the young king was in love and married the British princess anyway. They had 6 children. Alfonso, Prince of Asturias. During his circumcision, he bled excessively, and it was clear that he had hemophilia. Alfonso blamed his wife, and their marriage turned cold. The prince wore a special jacket to help prevent deadly injuries. Growing political unrest caused Spain to become a republic in 1931. The unpopular king was deposed and his family went into exile. Alfonso removed himself from the succession to marry a commoner, Edelmira San Pedro y Roberto. They divorced 4 years later. He married another commoner, Marta Roquefort Altuzada, in Havana. They divorced 1 year later. Alfonso moved to the United States, but made clear his readiness to take the Spanish throne if called upon to do so. In 1938, the prince was involved in a car crash in Miami. He walked away with minor injuries, but his hemophilia caused fatal internal bleeding. He died at 31. Jaime was left deaf after a childhood operation. Because of his disability, he was pressured to renounce his claim to the throne. He married Spanish aristocrat Emmanuel de Dompierre, and they had 2 sons before divorcing. He next married Austrian singer Charlotte Tiedemann. After the deaths of his older brother and father, he was the most senior male descendant of Louis XIV of France. He began calling himself King Henri VI of France and Duke of Anjou. Jaime died in 1975, age 66. His grandson still claims the title Louis XX of France. Beatrice longed to attend school, but tradition dictated that she be educated with her siblings at the palace. She spoke several languages, played piano, and was fond of swimming, tennis, golf, and horse riding. She was the constant companion and visual contrast of her younger sister, Maria Cristina. Beatrice took after their father and was tall, slim, and dark, while Maria Cristina had her mother's curves and blonde tresses. The princesses performed royal engagements together and were particularly interested in animal welfare organizations. They trained as nurses with the Red Cross. Because they might carry their mother's hemophilia gene, their father was reluctant to arrange royal marriages. Beatrice had a romance with the son of Spanish Prime Minister Miguel Primo de Rivera, but a marriage was impossible, and he was sent out of the country. The Infantas were close to their first cousins, Alonso and Alvaro, and the family assumed there would someday be a double wedding. But the royals' exile interrupted the potential marriages. The end of the monarchy dealt a death blow to their parents' ailing marriage, and they separated. Beatrice and Maria Cristina split their time between their mother in the UK and Switzerland and their father in Rome. Both sisters married Italian aristocrats. Beatrice married Alessandro Torlonia, Prince di Civitella Cesi. Maria Cristina married Count Enrico Marone Cinzano. Each sister had 4 children, none of whom had hemophilia. In 1950, Beatrice was allowed to visit Spain, but her presence caused such a swell of royal support that dictator Francisco Franco gave her 24 hours to get out of the country. Both sisters visited their birthplace again after the restoration of the Spanish monarchy. Maria Cristina died in 1996, age 85. Beatrice died in 2002, age 93. Juan, after both of his older brothers had renounced the throne, he was next in line and was named Prince of Asturias, the title of the heir apparent. He also granted himself the title Count of Barcelona. He served in the British Royal Navy, but his refusal to renounce his Spanish nationality prevented promotion. Juan married Princess Maria de las Mercedes of Bourbon to Sicilies, and they had 4 children. He tried to return to his homeland to fight in the Spanish Civil War, but was arrested and expelled from the country. At the end of the war, dictator Francisco Franco took over Spain. Juan spoke against him and asserted his own right to rule. When Franco, who didn't have a son of his own, decided to restore the Spanish monarchy, he passed over Juan and named his son Juan Carlos as his heir. He thought Juan Carlos would carry on the dictatorship, But when Franco died in 1975, the new king made Spain a democracy. He also officially made his father Count of Barcelona, the title he had claimed for decades. Juan died in 1993, age 79. In 2014, Juan Carlos I abdicated in favor of his son, Felipe VI, who is the current king of Spain. His daughter, Leonor, Princess of Asturias, is next in line. Gonzalo inherited hemophilia. Despite his ill health, he loved to play sports. He was 16 when his family was exiled. He studied engineering at the University of Leuven in Belgium. While spending a summer holiday with his family in Austria, he and his sister Beatrice went for a drive. She swerved to avoid a cyclist and crashed into a wall. Neither appeared badly hurt and returned to their villa. 2 days later, Gonzalo died of internal bleeding. He was 19. Thanks to her prodigious offspring, Queen Victoria is an ancestor to 5 out of the 10 surviving hereditary monarchs of Europe: King Charles III of the UK, Queen Margrethe II of Denmark, King Harald V of Norway, King Felipe VI of Spain, and King Carl XVI Gustaf of Sweden. Victoria is also an ancestor to 9 claimants to now defunct thrones: the imperial thrones of Russia and Germany, the royal thrones of Greece, France, Romania, Yugoslavia, and Hanover, and the ducal thrones of Schleswig-Holstein and Saxe-Coburg and Gotha. It is estimated that Queen Victoria has had 1,239 descendants, about 984 of whom are still alive today. No wonder she is called the grandmother of Europe. Want even more tea on history? Check out the History Tea Time podcast, available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, comment your thoughts, and check out my other royal history videos. If you really want to help, please consider supporting me on Patreon. A link is in the description. Thank you for watching.